The Boy Who Lost His Face by Louis Sachar. 5. At recess, David hung out with Scott, Roger, Randy, and some other kids, including 2 girls, Leslie Gilroy and Ginger Rice. Even though he was just barely part of the group, it still felt good to be hanging out with the 2 most popular girls in the school. He sat on the edge of a planter with a fake smile plastered across his face. Roger told the others how they had swiped Mrs. Bayfield's snake cane. "Her name's Felicia," said Scott. "Can you believe it? Felicia." They all laughed. "Don't get too close to David," warned Roger. "She put a curse on him." "Really, David?" asked Ginger. David smiled. "That's right," he said, trying to sound mysterious. "I'm cursed." "Yuck," said Ginger. After recess, David had science. Science and math were his 2 best subjects. His father was a scientist. After science was shop. Randy was in his shop class. David waved and said hi to him as he walked past Randy's work table. Randy waved back and loudly called, "Hi, Dave!" Another boy named Alvin whispered something to Randy, then they both laughed. David continued toward his table at the other side of the room. At the beginning of the year, everyone had to sign up for either home economics or shop. There was no rule that boys had to take shop and girls had to take home ec. In fact, David shared his work table with a girl. But girls can get away with boy things a lot easier than boys can get away with doing girl things. Shop was David's worst subject. He would have liked to have taken home ec. He knew he'd have to know how to cook someday, but he could just imagine what the other kids would have called him if he had signed up for home ec. He was making a cheese board shaped like an apple. He had to draw a picture of it on his drafting paper, and now, slowly and carefully, he was trying to copy that picture onto a piece of maple wood. Wham! David's pencil slipped as the girl next to him hammered a nail into the doghouse she was building. David turned and watched her. She was short and skinny, with very short, straight black hair that hung like a bowl over her head. Her name was Maureen, but everyone called her Mo. Wham! 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 He was fascinated by the way her skinny arms could weld the heavy hammer and pound in the nail all the way. With just 3 hits, the doghouse was almost bigger than she was. He finished drawing the apple on his piece of wood. It didn't look the same as his drafting paper drawing, but that didn't matter. He knew he wouldn't be able to cut it along the lines anyway. Wearing gloves and safety goggles, he cautiously approached the jigsaw. He set the piece of wood on the metal plate and turned the switch. He tried to maneuver the wood so that the vibrating vertical blade stayed on the penciled outline of the apple. So far, so good. Perfect. Nuts! He had cut the apple out perfectly, except he followed the wrong line at the top and accidentally cut off the apple's stem. The stem was supposed to be the handle of the cheese board. Well, not all apples have stems, he consoled himself. He returned to his work table, took out his sheet of drafting paper, and erased the stem. He had learned early in the year that if he could make the project look like the drawing he'd made, he had learned early in the year that if he couldn't make the project look like the drawing, he'd make the drawing look like the project. "Is that for your girlfriend?" asked Mo. "Huh?" said David. "I don't know." He shrugged. "Maybe." He was flattered that Mo would think he was the kind of guy who had a girlfriend. "Are you going to carve your initials in it?" she asked. "Why would I do that?" he asked. "She knows who I am," whoever she was. "Isn't that what you're supposed to do with hearts?" asked Mo. She returned to her project. Wham! 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 He watched her bang another nail in the back of the doghouse, then glanced back down at his measly project. It did look more like a heart than an apple. He looked up to see Randy and Alvin coming his way. He nodded to them. "Hey, Mo," said Alvin, ignoring David. "Me and Randy were wondering something." Mo looked at them suspiciously. "What?" she asked, hammer in hand. "Are you a boy or a girl?" asked Alvin. He and Randy cracked up laughing. "Buzz off," said Mo. "She's neither," said Randy. "She's a dog. Look, she's making a house for herself." They laughed again. "Watch out, David," said Randy. "I don't know if she's had her rabies shot." David smiled. "How would you like a hammer up your ass?" asked Mo. David turned red. He wasn't sure if she was threatening only Alvin and Randy or if she was including him too. He didn't dare look at her. Alvin and Randy laughed and headed back to their table. David stared down at his cheese board. He didn't breathe until he heard Mo slam another nail into her doghouse. And that's the end of chapter 5.